Hi, this is Francisco Gonzalez, indie adventure game designer, and you're listening to the Scene World podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Scene World podcast
Hello, hi.
with Dennis and me. Oh, God.
We have a lot.
That
of
was
news
a pretty
today.
low bar.
We have a lot of news today, so let's get it on.
That's true. Yeah, before though, our guest will be Kartherine Vildoso from Peru. She is a video game advocate, a content creator for game developers, video game fans with 50,000 plus followers, an art director and concept artist with deep love for complex stories that can change the world. So
All
quite
right.
a big animal there.
All right.
Yeah, and I discussed with her the current state of the game industry in Latin America, especially Peru and Argentina. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes, as I said before, though, some news. Well, it's December, and unfortunately, a lot of companies decided to let people go. One of those companies is ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent companies, which is doing actually massive layoffs in the game division.
Yeah, right. Many companies are doing this. Also, Spotify in the music sector and
Amazon Games Studio.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, Spotify, exactly. Totally forgot that in the news. Spotify also. Yeah. On the other hand, Netflix made a deal with Rockstar. The GTA trilogy can now be played with the Netflix app. I'm not sure if it's already on or if it's soon to be on, but it's actually pretty nice to have a AAA title or collection of titles.
It's very interesting, but I wonder how you can play this. Okay, you can play it on your PC, but I'm not sure if it's playable on a TV with a remote.
The version that Netflix has from or will have from the GTA collection is actually the mobile version from what I've read.
I see. So
but I'm not very sure
probably it works pretty well. I'm very curious.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, other news. Amico, which we had prior in the podcast and also in the retro Gamescom panels, they released something called AmoHome, which looks like a software for Android that comes with 2 games right now. One of them is Shark, that of course you have to buy extra to play. And it also requires, according to an article from Kotaku, it requires multiple phones. Because you need also an Android phone for the controlling.
Sounds pretty complicated.
Yeah, I mean, not complicated. I mean, they did something like you can emulate the Amico controller which you need to play the games because it has a dial and so on. And you can emulate that on the Android phones with a touchscreen as a controller. But I don't know. I'm not really a mobile phone gamer. I have to admit, I'm not really the smartphone gaming dude.
Yeah, me too. I'm really not into mobile phones.
Yeah,
no. Not the mobile phones at all.
Yeah, I rather have my Xbox controller.
Yeah, that's the way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, well, other news. Gamers Nexus, the hardware YouTube channel, released a video 1 year later having a look at the Intel Arc GPU drivers, if Intel did improve got rid of bugs, and is finally a valued competition versus AMD and Nvidia.
Yeah.
So look for that. And also, there is a news update from the Kickstarter of Unijoy from Poland that work on Amiga / Atari / C64 joystick, which we also had in the podcast in the past. Currently, they are working in making the different options you could pick from when you were a backer into physical hardware, like
Nice.
different power buttons, lights for the rumble feature. So much about that.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, other news is Cyberpunk 2077 released now on a physical version. They call it Ultimate Edition, which include the DLC, Phantom Liberty, and the base game. And they don't release it on the PlayStation 4, only on the PlayStation 5 and other consoles.
It's quite a good decision because the PlayStation 4 version was terrible performance anyway. Yeah.
Didn't you sell it before?
Yeah, I had it once, but I think it's still not playable. I would call it not playable because it glitches out every now and then, and it's totally junk, I think, still, unfortunately. But I think on PlayStation 5 the performance is okay. I'm very curious about it.
I mean, honestly, even the PC version wasn't so good. I mean, I played it, and after 1 hour it crashed, and the autosave didn't work. So all my progress was done, and I had to play the game again. So I didn't touch it for a year because I was so pissed.
It's probably the most bugged game ever.
Yeah, but obviously, meanwhile, they fixed it. And also, they released a free 2.1 patch. So it's turning out to be a second No Man's Sky, where they constantly fix and update content, add content to the game, it seems.
Very curious about it.
There's also soon to be released a racing game on Steam for the PC called Super Polygon Grand Prix. That's a good one.
Okay, nice.
And also last weekend, there was the Indie Live Expo Winter 2023 from Japan, which was also in English and streamed in Chinese, which is good because from my understanding, there's not much from the indie development scene from Japan that we learn about outside of Japan, at least in my feeling. H-Bumber Guy, which last time was known for his long YouTube documentary about the oof sound, which turned into a Tommy Tallarico documentary, now released a 4 hours documentary called Plagiarism and YouTube.
I see.
And it mentions a lot of examples like Manning Cave, which was plagiarized and made into an animated video and then changed a couple of times and re-uploaded and so on and so on. And last but not least, Petro Planas, our guest we had from Venezuela when we spoke about retro collecting in Venezuela, now also has a TikTok channel where he releases new video game music.
Let's check it all out. Cool.
Oh,
interesting.
Hi there. So I might sound a bit different than usual because my snowball microphone unfortunately broke down. So I'm having a new microphone now. The K66 second hardware version with noise cancelling. Hopefully it's actually nice. Anyway, so there are some news that I would like to add before we start with the interview and that is number one, Maytree, who we had last year for the Christmas episode of the pod, released their new Christmas song this year, My Ordinary Christmas. There is a short version with video and comment section on YouTube, and there is a full version created by YouTube without comment section because it's created by YouTube, but also a link for purchase from all other platforms for music. And also, I would like to say that recently we mentioned the German RD TV documentary Phantom Liberty, and I noticed there's actually an English version in the RD Mediathek as well, so we will link to that. And also, there is news from John Ook and Dana Zudorenko's Game Tree, who raised 1.7 million for safe and inclusive gaming community, according to VentureBeat. So congratulations, Dana and John, successfully getting a new financial round and having enough financials to continue the business next year. And also, a bit of a sad news, Kelsey Lewin, who we interviewed a year ago, stepped down from the Video Game History Foundation because she wants to concentrate on other stuff. And she also said perhaps that will be a possibility to revive her YouTube channel. So good luck to that. Also, the Video Game History Foundation, for the 1st December Christmas calendar door, released a documentation from the making of Riven from 1998 in a restored version. And they're putting out something new each day. And also, Threads might finally be launched in Europe in December, because right now the social network by Facebook to challenge X is until now not available in the EU. So that might change within December. Also, Star Citizen announced that now it's possible to enlist to play the Squadron 42 adventure. And with that, I would say, now let's go to the interview. Nice. All right. I mean, that would be all from now. So let's jump to Peru and speak to Katherine Vildoso. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Okay. Today, we have another guest to the podcast, and this time it's actually Ekate Vildoso from Peru. Welcome to the podcast.
So glad to be here.
And I saw when I did some research, you have a lot of hats on. Amazing a lot. I mean, Victor, our common friend, he told me you are the coordinator of the Peruvian chapters of the IGDA. But on your LinkedIn profile, you even say you are a content creator for game staffs and technology, a video game concept artist, a content creator with 40K followers, and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I don't know the word in English, but in Spanish we say todista, that you want to do everything that you can. So I'm on that path, on that war path. But yeah, actually I used to see the public relations part for IDDA Peru. I did that until last year when I was invited to direct with other two people the I'm sorry, I'm way to put it in English, but it's the CBA Peru, that is the organization that looks upon every main company developing video games here in Peru, and also as to promote them for international affairs and whatnot. So apart from all of that, I have been coordinator for the career of game design here in one of the main creative institutes that we have in Peru. I'm currently working on 2 places as a teacher in the UPC, that is the University of Peruvian Sciences, also in Toulouse-Lautrec as a teacher, and for Spain as a teacher, developing a master in video game design. And apart from all of that I do, I also have an agency where I am art director, and I recently created another company that is focused on teaching people about specialized knowledge on animation and video games, because sometimes it's kind of difficult to find. I don't know, if I want to learn how to make UV textures, but I don't want to learn the whole deal because I already know it. Maybe it's easier to find a teacher that knows that little bit of content. So we do that service. We help you search for teachers all around Latin America and, well, globally as well. And apart from all of that, I also create content because a few years back, I realized that we have here in Latin America, and especially in Peru, a problem when I started to plan my path towards growing and helping the community, that not many people actually knew what you could do with video games. Like, okay, you can play and it can be entertaining, but they didn't actually knew the difference between entertainment and fun, or that you can have indie games. What does an indie game bring to the community and everything? They didn't knew that. And as a result, many indie games in Peru, they just get lost in the conversation because people don't play them. They think that it's not a good game because it isn't a big game. So on that part, I started creating content and talking about that specifically for people here. And it has been very rewarding because I started this like 3 years back, and right now I have over 51K followers, and
Wow. So
I
you
can
have to
see
update
that.
your LinkedIn actually.
Yeah, it's been a while because
Okay.
this year
Yeah.
it's been crazy, and I've been
Okay.
also doing a master's in video
Yeah.
game design, and I'm overwhelmed. So many of my social networks are not being updated. I have to do that at some point, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping
Well,
to wait
I
until
mean, I
December.
mean, most of the stuff I found was in Spanish anyway, so I know very
I'm sorry.
little because Spanish is not among the languages I know.
I'm so sorry.
But it's not a problem. But anyway, what I find interesting, you say that a lot of gamers in Peru are used to AAA games and think indie games from double A studios or even less A's are not important. Really? Is that
Yeah,
so?
well,
Okay.
it used to be way back, like I'm talking 5 years back, a
Mm,
really set of problems that kind of fit that idea, because you used to
mm,
see video games from Peru, but they were made talking about Peruvian culture. But since we have a very specific cultural environment, because you have very strong ties to a pre-Hispanic environment and culture and beliefs, that they're still working today, but people don't know about them. So when they do a game and they try to talk about Peru, for example, just touching the part of Cusco and the Incas, you're leaving
mm,
behind a lot of stories that they should be told. So people kind of resent that, or resent it. I don't know if that's
mm.
so standing today, sorry. But as we started talking, and I realized many people actually wanted to understand what happened when you made a video game. Like, okay, are you making a video game, but what does it take? Do you need I don't know, someone to program it and someone to make the art? And that is not true. You need so much more. So
Mm.
that became kind of my mission, to talk about that and to be
Mm-hmm,
able
mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
teach about what's happening and why does it have value beyond the fact that it can be fun, because it's also uh, it's art in many ways, and
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
also a chance to
yeah.
tell a story.
I mean, in
And
Europe, in the European Union since 2015, video games are part of cultural good and preservable together
yeah,
with movies and books and all those things. That's actually what happened in the European Union. But here's an interesting case. Because I don't know, probably are too young, but recently Taiwan actually released the new RoboCop Rogue City, and
Yeah.
I know that I see that a lot of on the Steam forums that a lot of gamers were actually shocked how good the game is, despite it was made by a AA studio and not by a AAA studio. So actually it was praised more than it was expected to be. I mean, a lot of people, gamers and the media, expected a game with a much lower quality. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the game, but actually, it's one of those games I play lately, or currently, I would say, because
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Sadly, with all the things that I'm doing, I don't have much time to play, and the games that I'm playing they are games that I expected for a really long time to play. Right now, I'm playing Return to Moria. I'm sorry, it's the Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria. I'm a very big fan of Tolkien and everything related to it's like to me.
Okay.
But on that same page, I also like RPGs. So Baldur's Gate 3 it's an amazing experience, and I'm trying to enjoy every little detail. And as
Okay.
such, when I finish like taking all the juice of the game, I'm going to go to another game. But before that, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to find everything that I can because
Okay.
it's so great. But yeah, I know
RoboCop
what
is
you
not
mean.
really RPG. It's more like first-person shooter. I don't know if that
Yeah.
is among your
No, yeah,
thing.
I also play first person shooters, but the thing is that since I don't have much time and I don't like playing games, I really have a problem. It's a personal problem, I know, but with people that play games and they just go through it as fast as they can and they don't actually experience the game, they don't try to connect with it. And it's maybe because I'm a I'm a concept artist, but I see every detail and I look at every texture, and
Okay.
I'm gonna be
No, I don't.
that
I don't.
boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm that boring player that just stands next to a wall and looks at it and it's like such a beautiful texture.
Okay. I
And
see.
yeah, I have to take my time, sadly. But yeah, I know what you mean because I've seen it a lot, and I've even heard different comments here in Peruvian community of gamers and streamers and content creators. They don't take seriously indie games usually because they are not as good as to be trendy, or they must they're very low expectations for it, so it's not any good to talk about it, and I'm kind of against it. So I'm the one who talks about it, and I'm the one who suggests constantly to try different indie games over AAAs, because sadly, yeah, there is a big industry and anyone today can get the knowledge to do a game, but there's like this amazing art factor that tells a lot about the devs and what they saw it was possible. And I don't know, I just try to look at it as you will look at a beautiful painting of, I don't know, the Mona Lisa, and just examine it and try to savor it because there's a story behind it and I would like to know it because I am that nerdy person. And if there's other nerdy persons that like that, I guess they can also come into that community. But I know it's kind of hard yet because you have so much information so short, so fast, that I can see that currently the attention span is every second lower. I don't know. Last year it was like I don't know, 20 seconds. Today it's 10, and it keeps going down. And I don't only just see it online, I also see it in person. I also teach, and I see on my students that they don't actually grasp many of the things that you say or try to show. So I can
Really?
also
Okay.
understand, at least here, I don't know how it's that on Europe, because it's a different culture, it's a different kind of content and everything. But here it's a problem, and I guess the best way we have to fight it is to make things that you should know a little bit fun, a little bit I don't know, flashy, because it's gonna get your attention. So the thing is that I have to take advantage of it and tell you what you need to know in that time where you're intrigued as why my hair is this color.
I didn't even think about it. But I mean, perhaps I'm special here because I don't think about such stuff. It's not important to me. Um, I know that is important for others, but I don't think in boxes with different cultures, different age group, different hair color, whatsoever. It's not how I go in daily life. But I see where you're coming from, yeah. And I mean, a game like Robocop, Rogue City is obviously for a different target group, much older, even 10 years older than me. I mean, it's dark, it's gory, it's violent, and you need patience to master a mission because you cannot like complete it in 5 minutes and then go to the next stage. You really have to have patience. And me personally, I've always been a bad gamer and I never complete games, almost never. So if there is a game that I find interesting enough that I actually stick with it and want to complete it, then it's made something there. But perhaps let's talk a bit about how did you get involved in all this, the video game industry and computers and all that stuff. What was your starting point? I mean, it probably wasn't like as a kid you were born and suddenly like, wow, games. Probably.
No, it wasn't. Well, as a side note, there is not such a thing as a bad gamer. Just so
Really?
you
Yeah,
know.
well, I'm better in doing
Yeah,
interviews, I hope.
we're all better in different things.
Yeah.
That's what makes us special. Yeah, but well, regarding how I got into games, I actually, well, my mom and my dad are investigators. They work with the archaeology part, and I've always grown into investigating things because it was a normal thing to do in my house. Like when you wanted to learn something, you grabbed your book and you search on that subject and you search another book, and then you started to create your own hypotheses about it. And I grew up into that. I traveled with my mom and my dad a lot through Latin America, especially Peru. So I've seen on first hands things that other kids don't see, like going into the deep jungle, talking to people that are coming from tribes in a time where, well, it was kind of frowned upon here again. When you see someone, I don't know, wearing a loincloth and some feathers on their heads. And for my mom and my dad, it wasn't something so special. And it wasn't to me either. So my idea of something being different, it comes from their story and how you tell it, not how you look, not how you appear to others or what others might think of you. So that kind of made me interested into games because, well, you see there's many games with amazing stories where you can experiment to be someone completely different. And that's kind of the vein that got me into it because, well, I started playing with my dad as a very young age. My dad liked the ID software games, in a time where having a computer was here something amazing because not everyone had
See.
one. My dad had one because he had to work on it, and my uncle was studying mechanic engineering, so I had the luck to have a computer at home. So we started playing, and it became a very beautiful memory of going through my day and going to school, or maybe just when we were traveling, reading my books, ending the day, going and sitting next to my dad and being like, okay, we need to play this level in Doom 2, and we need to finish it on this time, and we will set just goals and enjoy the game, and we will play it again and again and again and again and again. It became like a ritual to us, and that feeling of knowing that a game can bring you such warmth beyond the game itself, because I know Doom is not just like, it's not a very warm game.
No, not really, not really. No, no,
Yeah, I
no.
know, but it was so fun to be just sitting with my dad and he telling me about all these creatures and they have a lore, and there's a world where you are a hunter through infernal portals and everything, and I just fell in love with that idea. So I started playing different games that had like that concept where you could be something entirely different. I've seen many girls that are kind of upset, and they're right to be upset because they don't have an actual representation of them in the games, like everything
Uh,
is too perfect.
I
But
I mean,
I don't share that, because my idea of something being cool for me is completely out of context for them, because when I play a game I want to be the biggest, the baddest and thickest guy in the place, that is like three, I don't know, 8 feet tall, and I don't know, it doesn't talk, it just growls, and because I'm entirely different in reality, so I want to go all the way towards the other end. That's what's fun for me. I know that there's people that don't share that because their views on gaming and representation is different, and they're entitled to, but I just enjoy the chaos of it. I don't know. That's why I like many different games as related to Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer, because you have that idea of just being brutal and big and bad, and you can have fun with it because everything is already bad in that world, so you can just be bad. It's not as bad. And well, so I actually studied art direction and graphic design, because here in Peru, I actually wanted to be a forensic. I'm sorry. In Spanish is different, but I wanted to work as a medical forensic. I don't know how to say it in English. I'm sorry.
well, I
I don't
mean,
remember it.
you could look it up. I mean, it's not live anyway. I mean, I can cut it out, no problem. Whatever,
Um,
whatever makes you happy.
it's been a long time since I tried to explain that. I'm sorry.
That's no problem. It's all good.
Medical examiner. Yeah.
Mm.
And I actually wanted to study that, but here, education, usually the good education comes with a very high price, literally. So when I tried to go through the exams and everything, I actually did it, but the problem is that I didn't have the money to pay it. So I went with the second best choice that I had, that it was art direction, because I've drawn all my life. I don't remember when I
Mhm.
started drawing or painting. My mom says it was when I was around 6 months. I don't know, because
Wow, that sounds a bit
I
early, to be honest.
I couldn't know because I don't remember, but that's what she says, and I'll take it very carefully. And I've drawn all my life, and my mom and dad always kind of fed my intentions to grow whatever I wanted. So if I wanted to paint with oil paintings, they would give me the oil paintings. If they could get me, I don't know, watercolors, they would get me the best watercolor and such. So I said, okay, if I'm going to do something that I like, the next best choice beyond experimenting in a medical field with I don't know, corpses, because I'm kind of dark. I know you can tell.
Right, right.
It's going to be painting. So I went into that career, and it was very fun. It's weird for someone to say that, because I see many people struggling with their decisions on careers, but it was actually very fun to me, and I enjoyed it a lot. So when I was finishing the career, I was contacted by game designing here in Peru, because I used to go to events and draw people there. Like, I take my notebook and be like, if you give me like around $1, I'm going to draw you, and in my style and painting, you can take it.
$1.
So
Oh,
this
that's cheap. That's cheap.
yeah, but I actually did that because I wanted to get into more possible customers. So I had to be known somehow. So I just went
And
to
now you
different
are no,
events.
more known that you than you would wish for, right?
Y-
Uh,
But yes, so I went there and kind of met this person called Ivan Hermosa. And he told me that he was making a game and he wanted someone to help him with sprites. At that point, I didn't actually knew what was. So I just went into my house. I sat on my computer and started looking for it. At that time, the forums were still active, and you could find a lot of good things and not necessarily dark things on 4chan and Reddit. So I kind of went through the motions to find what was that job and what did it entitle. So I started working with this guy, and he was very kind to teach me how the whole process went, because I'm very inquisitive, as I try to put it, because I'm the person that comes and be, why are you doing this and why not that, and how do you use it and where do you put it and how do you program it and how. So this person had a lot of patience with me, and when
Okay.
I finished doing the first batch of sprites, he told me like, I want you to do all of them, and I also need your help with concept art. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And I just went deep into it, and I fell in love with the process, because at that point I only knew about illustration as to, I don't know, making covers of stuffs on books, on CDs, on movies and everything, but never as to plan how a world, how a person, how a character will look, and take it to life. So
Mm.
it was a different world for me, and I just fell in love with it. So I started learning more about it, and I started searching for small jobs for it, and usually commissions through internet. I used to be very shy. Actually, I am very shy. No, sorry, I'm not shy. I'm introverted. It's different things. But I didn't
Mm.
knew how to talk to people. So now I have to. And at that point, when
I
I
mean,
did a commission,
you could also have said no. You know, it's like
um, I'm a very objective oriented person. So if I have a challenge in front of me, I want to take the challenge, because I need to know if I'm capable
okay.
of doing it. So as such, I started taking these small jobs. But the mistake I made was that many times I didn't ask for any mention in the work, or or be contacted to know to what game they were going to, because I was just happy of be getting paid. And at that point, I let many small projects just slip away from me. And
Oh.
I'm also
Okay.
grateful because I get to practice a lot. And if I ever made a mistake, I don't know, that kills me, and also kind of pushes me a little bit further, because it's like it's out there. I just don't know where.
Hmm. Hmm.
and and with time, I was contacted to work in the biggest media here in Peru that made content about video games, called Mass Gamer. That was around 2017, I guess. And I started making content to them with them. Actually, at first I was just writing articles, and at some point they told me like, I know this is weird from other countries, because I'm actually from Argentina. I live in Peru. In Argentina, this doesn't happen, and you rarely hear this. But here in Peru, apparently, you hear it a lot. But
Oh, so
I
you
was called,
actually immigrated to Peru? Okay. I see.
yeah.
Mm.
My dad's Peruvian, my mom's Argentinian,
Ah.
and I was called and and I was told, we need a girl to be shown in the front, because we need more guys coming to our content and our videos and everything. And I was like, but that's not how it should work, because I grew up in a different idea of society. I'm
Mm.
like, that's kind of weird. That's actually not good. But they were like, yeah, but we need someone that draws attention, so you can do it. And it was a very rocky path, because many of the content that I was invited to do, I didn't actually knew how to do that. I was told to stream games, and I have anxiety. So I would see, I was at that point trying to play PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and I would see like around 300 people looking at my stream, just insulting me because I was a girl, and because I was
Wow.
nervous,
Wow.
and I couldn't play and watch the camera at the same time. So I
Mm.
was kind of trying to work my way into it. I'm not bad at playing, but I get very nervous in that sort of environment, especially if I wasn't ready for it. So I tried to work through it, and I started watching my own streams and seeing like, okay, what can I do better? I'm not talking enough. I'm not watching on the screen enough. I'm not interacting with the people, and working through the motions. So at some point, I actually could maintain that number on the stream, and it kind of taught me how to talk to different people, because you need to keep the attention. And that's also where I tend to talk and move my hands a lot, move a lot, because that became ingrained into me. So at that point, I started also knowing about the media that went around in Peru at that time. And at some point, I realized that I actually didn't need a big media to do the content. So I just went on my own and started working on other things that I actually wanted to do, like participating in the community of game development, because I actually didn't know anyone. I used to work in a company as a concept artist, and I had a small falling out with them. Well, it wasn't small, but the thing is that it kind of was left as a small thing. And when I tried to search for help, I didn't actually knew where, because you couldn't actually find any organizations or anything that could help you if you have like if you had a legal problem or you needed advice, or what other companies were making video games. It was very hard to find. So on that note, I just realized that I needed to infiltrate as a way to put it into that community. So I started creating content that kind of became a token, because as a content creator, people would open many doors thinking that you would make content about them. So yeah, I also did content about them, but I'm sorry.
Bless you, bless you. No, no
Thank you.
worries. Well, I mean, I can take the chance here while you're interrupted to ask you some questions about what you just said. For example, you said you see heroes in games and playing characters different than what other women say games should look like. I mean, there's just a typical example. I mean, there is, or better to say, there was feminist frequency with Anita Sarkeesian, who actually retired and shut down her portal, and I don't know. She had a lot of extreme point of views, where like games like Tomb Raider with Lara Croft shouldn't exist because she is too sexualized as a video game character, and then others making counter arguments saying there always have been equal heroes in games, for example, Miss Pac-Man and Mr. Pac-Man, and so it's interesting that you say that as a woman, because there are those extreme point of views regarding video games, how they should be designed, and whether they should be targeted more the female audience or more the male audience, or if you just consider yourself a gamer, doesn't matter what gender you are, you know. So that's actually a lot to discuss about. I mean, that's a really broad topic, and I mean, also on this podcast, we were the last people who interviewed the Fractals from Ubisoft a few weeks before they actually dissolved the group, because Ubisoft said, nowadays society changed, we don't need an all-female gamer group anymore. So what's your opinion actually with all this development? Is that a step backwards?
I don't know. I guess it depends many times where are you trying to get into, because as you put it, you see things different, because the place where you were raised showed you a different view of that same problem.
I mean, I guess
Here,
my parents and my environment never taught me to make a difference between people. That's it. Very simple
exactly.
as that, you know. They're like, oh, look
Yeah.
at this person, look at that person, and I don't know. It's
It's
just
just a person. Yeah, I
it's
know.
just
And
yeah.
I share that same idea, because as someone who has grown into books and science and everything, I come to see things in a way that not many, I'm going to use the word normal, but the word is not normal. It's like people, most people don't actually see them. Um, And the thing is that on that same subject, I think that there's, yeah, depending on where are you trying to get into with a game, because when you make a game, you need to work on where are you going to publish it, where are you going to tell about the game, what country, what region, why that game, what age group, and all of those things become the chance to sell or create some sort of monetization for the company, because at the end of the day, it's a product. I mean, there's games that they are not a product, but most of them they are. So the thing is that if you see it on that cold, I don't know, way, you're going to understand that as such, not every game is for everyone. Like, I don't know, deodorant. Not every single people are going to like the smell of, I don't know, bergamot, for putting a way of telling it. Many are going to like, I don't know, smell of vanilla, but not everyone. And that's good because you have diversity. As such, I think that there's a misunderstanding that all games should be targeted to all people. But the thing is that it's a business at the end. So you can't do that. It's not sustainable at the end. You need to think about where is that ground where you need to plant your seed, and it needs to be the best to grow. So there's going to be grounds that are not going to be the like of other people, and you have to accept that, because as a such, I know there's people that are annoyed by the color of my hair. I've been told.
Really?
Even colleagues, yeah, they're upset because my hair is too flashy, and it shouldn't be too flashy because I'm a 31-year-old woman, and I'm
Oh, older
working
than
with
I
several.
thought. Okay.
Yeah. And I have two companies, and I shouldn't be acting this way, but hey, that's just the way I act. It doesn't matter how professional I am, because it's a different face of the same person. As such, there's going to be people that are not going to enjoy the same games as, I don't know, the Asian region is going to enjoy, because the mechanics and the way the way that they are socially constructed and inclined to interact is different as well. So I cannot be, I can, but it doesn't make sense to be offended about how they play a game and how I play a game not being the same.
Hmm.
So it's also, I think, a matter of respect. If you ask for respect, if you ask to be better represented in a game that is targeted to your audience, and you can make it better by helping the devs and saying like, hey, I enjoy this, and as your consumer, I think this will work better. But just randomly attacking people because you don't see what you like is not fair, because maybe it's to the like of someone else that is actually their target. I'm not
Hmm.
up for very extreme ideas on that, because there you have to conciliate. You need to find a middle ground, because sadly there's many people that I see online are very resented to, I don't know, the world, it seems. I know them, they may have been through difficult things. I think we all somehow are going through something. We don't know the full story of everyone, but it's not the same to be suggesting a change and finding a way, a nice way to implement it, is to attack a whole group or a company or a game just because you're not agreeing to it. And
So perhaps that is
on
why,
that's
though that
yes.
perhaps that is why a lot of even female game YouTubers were actually happy when Anita said she's shutting down feminist frequency, because they said that her extreme point of views are bullshit, basically. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I mean,
she's entitled to think what she wants to think, because after all, she may not say it, but she may still think it. And as we don't like it, she's entitled to say it. But the thing is that there's a difference between saying what you think and say, yeah, that's what I think, but the world doesn't work that way. It doesn't need to work as I want it to, because I don't know everything. And trying to force someone into a politic or a mechanic or a aesthetic that you like just because you like it. Nah, I'm not up for that.
okay.
It needs to be a middle ground for everyone. For
Mm.
the devs that are trying to tell a story, and the art needs to reflect all that, and the consumer that gives it time to understand it. That's why I also have the problem that I said with people just going through a game and not looking at it, not trying to understand stuff. Because in the best scenario, I know it's not every game, because sometimes, well, I don't know, there's many interests behind doors that we don't know. But uh, the concept art, and especially the mechanics and the game design, are so important, because there's a story that should be told, and you shouldn't be trying to force that into the player. You should be able to tell it in the most, I don't know, harmonic way possible, so the person can build it in their own head, because that's also part of a game, that you
Mm.
don't actually know the whole story from the start. You're going through the story, you are part of the story. Sometimes it's your story that you're telling, that you're building. So if someone's trying to push that into you, it feels like when you're in school. Well, here it happens, but when you're in school and you don't understand something, and the teacher just goes, yeah, but it works that way because I say so.
Okay, well, that's
You
not.
know?
Yeah, that's not very logical. So,
Yeah.
so the answer of the question, to sum it up, do you think you need a group or organization to represent you as a female gamer, or do you think it's not necessary at all?
I think
Yes,
it
I mean, it's
depends.
basically yes or no. No, is it more
Okay.
complex than that?
Yeah.
It is.
Let's
Okay.
say that, yeah, in some cases. I think it's
Hmm.
good that there's people that are trying to find a more neutral ground so that everyone can be included, but they need to do so with a very, very well set criteria, because it cannot just go as a very upset parent that doesn't have a authority and just tells you because I say so. No, it should have a very strong base into the community and onto where are you putting that game, what is the story that this game is trying to tell you. Because when you try to change very specific factors about how the player looks or how it feels, or you're also upsetting the story, you're changing it, and you cannot tell it the same way. Is if I'm painting a painting and I'm trying to place it the best as I can from where it comes from my head, if you try to change the colors just because you don't like it, you're also going to change the story that I'm trying to tell you through it. So it needs to be done with a very good criteria. And that's hard, you know.
Hmm.
That's very hard to nowadays, when so many people are very focused on to gaining the approval of the most
Yeah.
the most people out there, and not the actual unrepresented people. And I
I
see that
mean,
with accessibility. I'm sorry,
I mean,
accessibility.
it even works for movies.
Yeah.
You know, remember this all-female cast on the Ghostbusters movie before the
Oh,
last one? That was actually a disaster. So
yeah.
they went back to the male cast again, and
That was
actually
amazing.
the trailer for next year is supposed to also be based on the original Ghostbusters and not the female cast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I mean, I don't know. It's a bit hard for me. I mean, I also see personally there is still a problem because, for example, when I played with a friend, Counter Strike 2,
Yeah.
the new old whatever Counter Strike. Well, basically Valve replaced the CS:GO with Counter Strike 2, but that's a different story. But anyway, as soon as in the voice chat, um, they noticed that there is a woman in the match, the insulting started, like die bitch and whatever. And that reminded me why when I play online games like PUBG or Fortnite, why the first thing I do in settings is always disabling team chat, because it's always people insulting others, especially the female players. And I'm like, wow, was that really necessary? You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really you know, and then of course you have other disturbances, like people speaking in other languages, and somebody else is screaming, speak English, and it's such a chaotic situation that I'm like, wow, no, I cannot handle this anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very intense. There's many
Yeah.
problems, I think, with responsibility in gaming online because, okay, yeah, this may be a little disruptive, but I also see, and I see that through students when I teach the career of video games, and I kind of, I'm not gonna say I experimented on them, but I tend to ask a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive, so I used to
You said so
see,
already. Yes.
yeah. So I used to see that when, for example, when we finished an assignment earlier, I used to tell the students like, okay, if you want to, we can play a game. Let's play, I don't know, CS:GO, for example, no? And we're going to make teams in the same classroom, no? And this is team A, team B. The team that wins is gonna get, I don't know, I used to take candy, so they're gonna get candy, all of you. Yeah, I'm also kind of like a grandma, and I take candy in my
To
purse
to
because,
them.
yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't matter if they're 22, 25, 26
Okay.
year olds, they always like candy. So um I'm like, okay, let's just play. And I used to see that they will shout at the person next to them, you should be doing this, are you stupid? And I'd be just standing next to them and being like, okay. When they finished playing, why did you do that? And they would just ask, I would say, "Well, I'm sorry." No, 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 no. Okay, I get that you're sorry and everything, but I want to know, why did you do it? And you will see their faces change as to being backtracking in their head, like, why did I do that? And it's usually a very dumb reason. um, the fact that their playmate didn't actually knew how the things worked as fast as they thought they should know, sorry. And I was just sitting next to them and being like, okay, so if you played a new game, you never played the game, and you couldn't learn as fast as the people that are already playing it like 5 years, 4 years, whatnot, do you think that you're dumb for not knowing? And they would just start, stay in awe, like, no. And why do you think that your playmate is dumb for not knowing? Why is the first idea that comes to your head? Because you're not filtering it, that's for sure. But it comes to your head, so why is he dumb? And I don't know if it was the fact that I was like one of the two or three women that were teaching in the school video games at that time, but they would tell me like, I think that I'm used to people shouting at me or insulting me if I don't know things fast enough, so it just became normal.
Mm. Okay.
And I was like, okay, and if that's the case, when you're playing a game, can you actually tell that you're having fun? Like, is that fun for you to be shouted? Because I can see that some people actually enjoy it, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
is your
Okay. It's
case?
sardomistic stuff, and I know, man.
Yeah, and they'd be like, no, actually, it's not. And then, okay, if that's the case, then are you playing the game because you feel that you need to do that to interact with your friends? Or because that's the thing that you want to do? Or would you like to play a different game and maybe just enjoy it a little bit more? They would be like, yeah, I shouldn't be playing that game. I'm not enjoying it. Usually the answer tends to be that they're doing it because their friends are also doing it and they want to have this sort of connection with them. There's also the stage where they've been playing a game for so long that if they leave it now, it's just a waste of time, like Dota or League of Legends. And there were also the idea that other people were in something online, so I thought it was what they used to do, so I started doing it as well. I don't know if it's good or bad, I just do it. So there's a problem with filtering here. Not entirely from the players, also from the devs, because it depends on how much can you afford to filter or create a way to filter this. But there's also a responsibility that hasn't been taught, that what you're saying, want it or not, is affecting someone at the other end. As simple as that. And you don't know if what you're saying is going to be the cherry on top of a terrible day for someone, and you're the responsible for something bad happening to that person. So if you're not going to say something good, you just don't say anything at all, you know? Simple as that. You have other ways to communicating in games. You can usually just point things out and jump and whatnot. So if that's the case, why you are not taking the responsibility of of thinking about how you're interacting with someone? Because just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean it doesn't have consequences. Even the fact that you think it's normal to act that way, you're teaching it to someone else, maybe a kid, and you cannot just say, oh well, it's their parents' problem. You're also responsible for insulting that kid and teaching it to be that way to other people, and so on, so on, so on. So people actually don't think about that when they play. And that's a very interesting thing, because there's a responsibility to be held every time you interact with someone in any place. It doesn't matter if it's online or in person. But those people, I guess, they don't tend to think about that, or they're just very
I see.
into the game, trying to disconnect from whatever stress they might have. And I think it's a way of protecting that sanctuary. Like, this place is it needs to be my happy place. So if you make me lose, if you make me to be less than someone else, then you need to pay for it, you know? But it's a very subtle thing that happens into people, that I can see that it's not filtered. Because if you become aware of that, you stop doing it at the very second you're thinking it. But it doesn't happen a lot, as I said.
Wow, that's a whole science talk here.
I tend to ask these things because, I don't know, like I said, I grew with a very different view of stuff. So when someone tells me this, I try to look at from the outside, not in, as I'm affected by it. But why? And that's also why I do so many things, because I realize that if you want to do this, you need to know this, and if you know this, you need to know this, and such and such and such, and just keeps growing. And in a way, you start to connect the dots, and things become easier. But it's not every person's process. It's just mine, and I know it's weird.
You mentioned a lot that you were grown up different. Is Argentina so different from the Peruvian society?
Yeah, many things, yes, but
Okay.
not just Argentina. I grew up in Peru as much as Argentina, because I used to travel a lot.
Okay.
But the thing is that Peru is very centralized. I think Argentina as well, in some way. And when you go into the provinces of Peru, you become very aware that people have different, I don't know, needs and ways of seeing the world culturally and as a whole. I don't know. It's very hard to explain, but the priorities are completely different, even to interacting to people. Here in Lima, people are very they tend to be very concerned about others might think. And I don't have that. I don't have that filter. As well as, I came from Argentina, and in Argentina, people tend to think your life, but in the west, in the best way. Okay, many people think it's a bad way, but no. Your life is not my problem. As if you want to dress all green, if you want to paint your face, if you want to put horns in your head, it's your problem. If you're a good person, that's all I care. That's it. And I think that way. But when I came here, I realized that that wasn't the case. And when I come back to Argentina to visit my family, I this year I stayed 3 months with my family. And I I get easily attached to the idea that there's that freedom, that you don't need to be concerned about what people might think, because nothing bad is going to happen to you if you don't. Here it does. And I don't know, for example, in Argentina, it's very common for women to be walking around without brassiere. It's because no one looks at them. It's like, okay, if you want to just go that way, it's okay. It's your choice, and no one's going to be whistling at you or shouting at you or trying to touch you. Here it happens a lot.
Mm.
As such, if you pop out in any way, then you're gonna be
I see.
treated different, and usually be chased or shouted or whistled to and everything. So when I was younger, around my 21 years old, I used to walk around with a longboard through Lima, and I got people even following to my house in cars. Uh,
Really?
older
Okay.
men, like
Mm.
45, 50 years old. They were married, they had children, they take flowers to my house and everything. And at that time, sadly, now it's different, thank goodness. But you would go to the police station and try to file some sort of complaint. They would tell you, because I was told, my dad was told, he was with me, that I wasn't they did actually, they didn't do anything wrong, like they didn't touch me or nothing bad happened, so they couldn't actually put a complaint. And it's a very ominous thing to say, as okay, so I need to wait for something bad to happen. Is that what and that's how thing happens here. So when I try to see that from the outside, because I'm very used to that, I try to find the difference. So I try dressing very differently. I always like the goth scene. My mom was a goth when she was younger, so I kind of just inherit the whole thing. And I tried dressing with full goth, black eyes, contact lenses, and everything. And the best outcome was to just scare people away because they wouldn't know what I was. So they would
Okay.
just move.
Ooh.
And the
Okay.
worst outcome would be that people would try to chase me or touch me, or even someone tried to, they grabbed me on the street and wouldn't let me go if I didn't give them my cell phone. And not like stealing, like, I want your numbers to call you, I want to know your name and stuff. And I
Wow. Okay.
shouted at
That
people and people
sounds
just went
scary.
by.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. In Argentina that doesn't happen. Actually, I went there with my best friend and, well, my two best friends that are guys that live with me. And they were concerned because when we got to La Plata, they were people that were drunk on the sidewalk. They were men, all men, in summer, and I was just wearing shorts and shirt. And they were like, okay, so we need to get ready because they might whistle at you, we might have to fight. And I just went through it. It was like, hey, here it's okay, no one's going to say anything. And they didn't. And they were shocked, like, what, people don't whistle at you if you just go this way? No, they don't. Here is
Mhm.
normal. So that kind of hurts a lot when I come here to Peru, because okay, I'm a big person, I know how to defend myself. But the thing is that I see that on many of my students that are girls. And the best that I can do for them is tell them to be careful. But it's not right. So the same goes as to creating content. Sadly, I know that a part of the people that come to see me or talk to me, they're expecting something. And I try to be as straightforward as I can and be like, hey, sorry, I'm not interested. I have a default message that's just that when you ask for my number or to go out with me. That's like, sorry, but I'm not interested. Thank you so much, but I do not engage sentimentally or romantically with any of my followers or
Really?
or colleagues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I actually
Okay.
needed to do that and
Wow.
ask for my
Okay.
secretary to be
Mhm.
checking, because I used to get, it's very normal for me to get dick pics, for example. It shouldn't
Oh.
be, but it is.
Okay.
It's very normal for me to get that sort of comments. It's very normal for me to have
I
colleagues
mean,
that
I mean the
come for
worst
that.
the worst I experienced personally was prank calls from women and somebody moaning on my Skype voicemail. I was like, what is that? Why would you even do that? That was kind of scary. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I cannot really relate to that, to what you said about societally behaving in Peru, because I only have this tourist point of view. I was in Peru for 3 weeks 10 years ago, actually, to visit Victor and other friends from the retro computing scene. And I remember when I told people that I'm going 3 weeks to Peru, everybody was like, "You shouldn't go. You will be robbed." And and I'm like, at that time at least, there was no terminal warning from the foreign department of abroad of Germany. I'm like, okay, if the government think it's safe to go, you can, and I know even in the plane, I was actually not directly coming from Germany, but from France. And I remember I was actually traveling with Air France, and on the opposite side of the gangway, in the seats, there was a Peruvian family, and they asked me, "How much languages do you speak?" And I'm like, "2, German and English." And they were like, "No Spanish." I'm like, "No Spanish." And they were like, "You're out of your mind going to Peru not knowing Spanish. You will be totally lost." And I remember being at immigrations, and this immigrations officer totally annoyed that he has to speak English, and so he only speak 2 words: yes and welcome. Wow, that was the rudest experience ever. And it was like, wow, this is despite Latin America has all this welcoming attitude, and everybody is happy and open-minded and stuff. And my first experience was a bit like, what's going on here? That's like,
Yeah.
So and while on my way to Peru, it all went fine. On my way back to Germany, I also had to pass immigration, obviously, because they check if you have an entrance stamp from your arrival in your passport and stuff. And they actually put a woman there, trained by her supervisor, and she didn't know any English. I was like, "Sorry, your Spanish is lost on me. I don't know a single word of Spanish. I'm sorry." So I was like, what's going on here? It really killed me in this moment, And it also, I mean, I've been to other countries like Brazil and so on before, and at least when you have this immigration, this customs paper you have to fill in the plane before you arrive to the airport, we're like, do you have anything to claim for sale or whatever, any commercial samples, any values, any cash money that's above 10,000 euros or anything. So you have to declaration paper, but you also have to put in the address where you will be sleeping, or where you will be staying during your stay in Peru. And this whole form was in Spanish only, and there was just one sentence at the bottom: if you have any questions, ask the customs officer. And I'm like, I'm on a plane. I'm on a plane. There's nobody to ask here. And Air France, French people are not known for knowing foreign languages a lot. So there was one stewardess on the flight that knew Spanish, that would have to help all those non-Spanish speaking tourists how to fill out the form. And of course, I filled it out wrong, so I had to do it all over again. Yeah. So I felt like there's a lot of attitude that even a year before I was in Brazil, even the Brazilians said, "Why would you go to Peru? It's dangerous. It's poor. There's nothing there to that is worth spending 3 weeks." And like, I have friends over there, I'm spending time with friends. That's good enough for me as a reason,
Actually, I'm going to tell you that Peru has amazing things in culture, because I've been through many places besides Cusco. I like Cusco the least from all the places that I've been here, because there are many archaeological places, as the Temple of Chavin, that it's actually like a maze that goes on the ground, and you need to get out of the place, because warriors used to do that. That was a test of strength. and at the very center of it there's a big sculpture of like a knife all carved in stone. It's amazing, and I thought it was way better than Cusco, and especially Machu Picchu or Caral, that is one of the oldest things archaeologically talking in Latin America, and no one actually knows what it is for, but it's like a whole temple, amazing, beautiful. There's so many places like this here, but like I told you at the beginning of this interview, there's many people that actually don't know, but there's a cultural thing with it, because the people that live near them, they know the story, they know what it meant and why it's important, and many of that just gets lost because, well, many people just turn their heads to Machu Picchu, and it's kind of sad in a
That's
way.
true. That's
But
true.
yeah, I know what you mean, because, well, one of my best friends is actually Ukrainian, and he lived a while in Ecuador, but he expresses himself best in Russian. So when he tries to tell you something, I mean, he can fluently speak Spanish, but sometimes he doesn't know how to explain the words. People in customs didn't actually knew how to tell him where he was staying, because they just started rambling about what was the street, and they just started confusing him. So I just had to come, and that was this year coming from Argentina. He has his green card for living here and everything, and they still asked him all of these things, and I just went there and be like, he's staying at a place, this is the direction, the number, and everything. But it felt like they weren't trying to help him. That's the thing.
Mm.
Like they didn't actually care what happened. Like, just give me the information so I can put it there and you can just go. And yeah, that feels weird, but it has improved in several other things. Right now, I think the forum comes in English as well.
Is it?
And
Yeah. Well, not 10 years
yeah,
ago. And I'm really shocked how rude this customs officer was. Not hello, how are you? Nothing.
well,
Like,
I have to tell you that my mom had a very special problem, because she went through customs, and she came from Argentina.
oh,
I
sorry,
think
it
it
was
was
immigrations. It was immigration
yeah,
officer.
sorry,
Yeah.
immigration, yeah. And she just went through it, and they have their seals, and they have to put the date when she came into Peru. So when we started our papers to having our Peruvian identification card and everything, we found out that the person in immigrations that put the seal as if she was going out, not in.
Oh, wrong
And when
direction.
we,
Okay.
okay, great, so how do we fix this? And they didn't knew. But it's their mistake. Like, okay, but you made a mistake, how do we fix it? Who we have to talk to? And they didn't know. So basically, the way that the person who was talking to us told us is like, she's not legally here, and it's like, okay, but she's standing right here, so how do we make it legal? Yeah, we have to talk to this other person doesn't know, and such and such and such, until we got into the state person that actually like deals with the whole migration things, like the supervisor of the place here in Peru. And this person told us what to do, but otherwise they didn't know.
Mm.
And they were trying to get us to make her take a plane, go out of the country, and then come in. And it's like, you just have to make a document. I don't know, it's a legal process and everything, but why spend to go out and then go in? That shouldn't be the easier way. But yes,
Right.
that's
Right.
still a problem. Sorry.
And another issue I remember now, back to game related. There was this adventure game, retro adventure game, um, Unusual Findings. It was actually done by an Argentinian development studio, and they actually made a Kickstarter first, and it was successful, and it was at some publication game of the month and stuff. And what really shocked me is at the time where the Kickstarter was finished and the game was released on Steam, the developers in Argentina totally ignored all bug reports and improvement suggestions by the community or the gamers. They totally played dead, you know. They, even when I emailed them, they wouldn't reply to emails, nothing. And the game is only available in Russian and in English. Interestingly, not in Spanish, despite it would be well, obvious to have the game in Spanish because there are Spanish-speaking developers. But the game was also in Russian because the publisher was a Russian company. I mean, nowadays they are in Cyprus, but unofficially they are still Russian because, well, they moved for PR reasons, because it's better to be a company in Cyprus than being still in Russia nowadays. Anyway, and the game has like logic breaking errors, like they are not differentiating between the door being closed and the door being locked. And I actually learned that this is translation error between English and Spanish. That must be a language difference somewhere. But of course, if you don't have the key for a locked door, you cannot open it. But the game doesn't tell you, and you wonder, why can't you open a door that is closed, you know? Because it's not only closed, but additionally on top, it's also locked. And that's the difference here. And I mean, there are simple things like you cannot disable subtitles. And that really disturbs me to the extreme when I have a game and there's constantly subtitles being displayed. I don't need the subtitles. My English is hopefully good enough that I can understand without subtitles. So that's this attitude of the Argentinian dev team towards the community of like, fuck it, we don't care anymore. We got your money, thank you and goodbye. That really shocked me, you know. I don't know if that is an Argentinian thing, but when I speak to other people from Chile and so on, I heard that a lot of people hate Argentinians. Like, Argentinians are rude, they're assholes, don't waste your time with them, and like, that's...
I find that hard to believe because, well, as CDA, we're part of the Latin American Video Game Federation. And actually, most of the companies I've worked with, because, well, I also make events regarding gamification in video games here in Peru. And a couple of times we had game jams that gave amazing games. And the devs they weren't interested into continuing making the game. That's fair. So we contacted Argentinian companies that were recommended by the ADVA, and they were very nice. They were very responsible and everything. I don't think all Argentinian devs are that way. I think it's, well,
I was taken to the extreme.
Yeah, sadly, I think there's good and bad people. Well, it's not bad, it's just difficult people everywhere, because I've seen many difficult people here in Peru, and then also difficult people from Mexico and everything, but it happens everywhere. What I also know that tends to happen is because of the different culture, we tend to clash a lot with other countries. As an Argentinian talking, because I've heard a lot here in Peru, and people from my accent, I've been a long time here, so I try to hide my accent because I can tell that people treat me differently if they're here. My accent is very
the special thing about is, I mean, I'm online since 23 years now, and 2006 was the first time I spoke with somebody from Peru. And the difference between Peruvians and other people in the world is that depending on what language education you have, some, like yourself included, barely have an accent, if any accent at all. And I read an article written by a Peruvian person online where he wrote that certain English schools, private English schools, actually, figuratively speaking, get rid of their Spanish Latin American accent when they speak English as a quality seal or something. and that's like
Yeah.
wow, you know. Um,
Well,
and, and, and,
I
and,
don't
and,
know.
and before
I don't know if
before people
if
had
that explains.
1 second. Before I saw people on the webcam, I actually didn't believe that they were actually from Lima. And because their English was so flawless, you would think that they are from New York or whatever, you know. That's really.
Oh,
But there are little exceptions where you can hear if a person isn't a native English speaker, regardless, when they're saying things like "wait me" instead of "wait for me," you know,
mhm.
or
FM.
open my
Mm.
webcam instead of starting my video or whatever. And then
Yeah.
that's like that must be some Spanish grammar flaw somewhere. Or when
Yeah,
people
that's a tell.
or when they say people is, despite in English people is plural, so you say
Yeah.
people are. So
Yeah.
anyway, now you can answer. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, well, actually, I never studied English in school. Well, my parents have very well known friends from every part of the world, and one of them, she was director of Markham College here, and she actually took upon herself to teach English, British English, because she said that I couldn't be this intelligent, her words, not mine, and not know English at my 12 years old. So she taught me. And I think it just went mutating because um, when I grew up, I started talking. I currently talked with many people that are in the UK and also USA and other countries. So talking to them, I kind of mutated my accent because I was learning also from them. I have a few friends that live in Weston Supermare in Britain, and then I have a friend that lives in New Mexico in USA. Also, I have a part of family that lives in the USA, Miami. So I constantly be talking to them also affects how I talk, but I never actually went into a school to learn English, as I'm
Impressive.
learning on my own Korean and Japanese, and also a little bit of Russian because of my friend that lives with me. But it's also because of the culture that I have in my house. My dad speaks like 14 languages, and he keeps
Wow.
learning because he's bored and he really loves
Incredible.
dead
Okay.
tongues.
Okay.
My mom knows how to read Egyptian and Aramaic, and they teach me as well because we're all nerds.
Okay.
So I I I actually see languages as my dad told me. Like languages are the way to get your idea across to another person. So as long as you can do that, that what matters. That's what matters. And in any case, you can just keep polishing that same process over and over again. So that's different approaches, but I guess it goes to the same end. And yeah, I know that many people actually here think I'm Peruvian, but they kind of feel that there's something off, so they tell me like, are you from Chile? And no, I'm from Argentina. And their faces change, and the whole speech changes with me, because here in Peru, Argentinians are seen as people that we don't have boundaries, because well, in Argentina society, everyone is the same. It doesn't matter your age. You can be 15 years old and talking to someone from ranging from 80 to 90 years old, and you're going to talk to them as you would talk to your friend. And that's kind of what I like, because you also can change this mindset that here still lingers, that just because you're older, you know automatically more. That doesn't work
Oh,
that way.
well, I was told the same 20 years ago that I'm too
Yeah.
young to know.
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing, you can both learn, and that's great. But yeah, when I talk to people from other countries, they tend to think that because the Argentinian doesn't have that reverence, sometimes is not very respectful, and it just doesn't care. But it's our culture. I kind of learned how to word that in the middle, because I can see that many people are distraught by it, and they're entitled to, but they also have to see how that works there. It's very different. But regarding the subject, the different places that I work from Argentina in the past, and I actually never knew them before the ADBA recommended to me. Also, I was a judge here for the culture ministry, helping an award that they were given to video games. I was working with a colleague from Argentina, and they have always been nice. And they actually didn't knew that I was Argentina. I never told them until the very end because I wanted to know, like, is it because I'm me? So I just let them on to believe whatever they wanted, but they were very nice. So I think it depends on the people. I can understand that some people don't care anymore because you have to be conscious that right now making a game in Argentina is difficult for several reasons. The first of all, the economic reason that $1 is equivalent to one beyond 800 pesos.
Really?
And
Okay.
yeah, it depends on the dollar as well. We have like 16 different types of dollar. And if the person that uh, talks to you in the bank and thinks that you're not good enough for the best kind of change, they're going to give you another, and that's it. And it happened to me when I went there because I went with my credit card. My credit card is here from Peru, and I paid. And from according to the laws of Argentina, if you pay with a foreign card, the dollar you're going to pay with is going to be the biggest difference dollar. And I was like, okay, so this is around, I don't know, $80. And because
The best rate.
my
Mhm.
yeah, because my ID was from Argentina, I was charged as if I was Argentinian. So it was like uh, completely different. From $80 it went to 300. So the thing is that that's a problem for devs, because even if you're working with a foreign company that is helping on that process, you might still find problems and taxes on the way. Beyond that, you have the problem that many platforms right now are inflating the prices because people in Argentina can't buy the games right now. Xbox, I think you saw that they've changed the prices and they went up 120% on
Mhm.
everything on Steam for Argentina only. So you have all that problem. And then you might have the problem of changing the language because, yeah, Latin America is kind of aware their content is not for Latin America. It rarely is. We can make it in Spanish because we want people to see it, but it's very weird that people actually want to buy it, especially in a country that is suffering so much with their economics. So, in any case, you're going to make the game for another country, and you're going to be hoping to. If the best scenario comes out, your publisher is going to help you to sell it. So the
Ah,
publisher is kind of the one who helps you to, I don't know, put in the best ground for it to grow. I don't know the whole details because I'm not aware of that, but in any case, you have to keep all that process in mind and then be like, okay, so what made them take this road and why are they not fixing it? Maybe they just don't have the money anymore to fix that and they just have to move
but
on.
at least you could communicate. You could
Ah, yeah,
communicate.
on that I agree completely. But then again, it's not a justification because I don't know what happened. But I can also have in mind all of that process because as the CBA, we're talking to the ADBA constantly, and they tell us all of that that's going on. That they're trying to fix it as an organization that kind of tries to help every dev in Argentina, but it cannot always be done. Many of them tried and invested in another way to manage all of this with people on the outside, and that works for them, but it's not all. So I wouldn't know.
Mm. I mean, at some point you would wonder if the errors couldn't be avoided, like spelling errors
Yeah.
or like logical errors. I mean, just have somebody reading over the script again or something. And
Yeah.
it would really make me wonder if in Spanish there was no difference between a closed door and a locked door. I mean, that wouldn't make sense to me if you. I mean, there
Yeah, it's
must
kind
be
of,
a difference.
yeah, there is a difference depending on what you're trying to transmit. But yeah, there's a difference because from the door being locked as locked with the key and closed. But yeah, there
Yeah.
is. So I can see, I can see what you're telling me, and then again, I don't know everything, and
Mm.
it just seems sad that they don't try to engage more with their community, because I
Well,
guess
not anymore. At the beginning they did, but when the game was released, like, we don't care anymore, you know.
yeah,
But other things you mentioned, like localization of games, is a totally different topic. I mean, obviously, when Robocop was released, it was only released in English with localized subtitles. And of course, who complained first in the Steam forums about no German dubs? The Germans, you know. And I mean literally, if you are if you are an indie studio, you perhaps don't have the money to pay all the voice actors for all the different languages, you know. And now the question is, nowadays we are almost in 2024. Is it really necessary anymore to make games in 10, 14 languages now that people more and more learn English? I mean, even in Latin America, in the last 7 years, for example, in Colombia, the fluency rate of English increased from 15% of the average inhabitant to 30%. You know, so even Latin America is getting a higher fluency in English nowadays. I mean, with the internet, globalism, you know, that's
yeah.
just how I see it, you know.
I don't think it's
Per,
just English. I'm sorry, because
yeah,
well, we now know. Well, you tell me you're a retro gamer community,
yeah,
and well, you have seen many games that passed in the past that were also always regarding on English to be distributed because it was like the
yes.
most used language
In the
across.
80s, nobody cared, with a few exceptions, you know. 80s,
Yeah, and many
90s, nobody
and
cared.
many people in Latin America, I think you know that they were just playing what they had. Many people like me grew up with the game in English, and we learned to decipher what it said because that was just what we had. You didn't get anything else. So we just went with it. Like, okay, it's in English. Just play the game and try to find out. And that's why many people I hear here, I guess, are still stuck into the nostalgia of it, because when you play the game and you were little, you remember finishing the game, but you don't know anything that happened into it. So when you grow up, you play the game again and you said, that's what it meant.
Yeah, there's
That's
a
what I was
story.
doing.
There's a
Yeah, there's a
story.
story. That's amazing. But you didn't knew. So you
Yeah,
get that
true,
second chance as a way of speaking. And
true.
that's why it can pull people back, I guess. But I know what you're saying. Now, regarding today, I think today we have the knowledge of the whole UI UX environment that we didn't have back then. And the interesting thing about this is beyond the fact that the art and the aesthetics of a game develop into helping the player to play it, because back then you were just trying to make a fun game, that's all. Now you have games that with colors and forms and different sets of the level design can help you to find whatever you're looking for. Basically, they lead you to it. You don't actually regard language as the first way of communicating to the player, you know. You can make games
Interesting.
that they don't have text or words at all and you can still play it.
True.
So language is not much of a barrier as an option, because language is, I think, today not meant as to be thunk, thunk, thought as a region in itself, but as a way of letting the player know what it has to do. For example, we're making a game right now, my agency, with Italy, with a Academy of Music from Lucca. And the whole thing with our game is that we're going to avoid words whatsoever.
Oh,
We
okay.
want everything to be UX, UI, because, well, as a very special person that I am, I'm trying to promote the whole inclusion thing, but not as most people think of it. I'm trying to give it their place into people that need accessibility, and they may have conditions. So the whole game goes with that idea of helping people with their anxiety and their depression, and the music, the frequencies, the color, everything that we're using is being um, constructed onto helping that same notion. So on that regard, we're constantly iterating with the fact that we don't want text, we don't want speech. And well, the Luca Academy insists that at least the kids want to make a version with text. I'm sorry, with spoken places, because, and they're right, we might have players that have a problem with eyesight and everything. So we're thinking about implementing that, but it's possible. It's not impossible. It's just a thing that you have to think through. We're trying to experiment on that, and I'm very happy to be able to. But I know that regarding the region and the game itself, like the gender and everything, you're going to be expected to follow some conventions. So I think that's a thing of the devs to investigate, or at least the publisher to know. Like, if you're making a game for Asia, you cannot just be thinking onto using Japanese or Korean. You need to use Japanese and Korean and Chinese, and I guess there's dialects as well. So you need to think on that always, because otherwise you will be negligent with your own project, and you'll be chopping out his legs just because you don't want to investigate. And it's not a thing very hard to investigate, but I hope that with time we can have more games that work beyond that language barrier, because it's possible. And it's just, I mean, with AI and everything that's working right now, you can even get different helps from, I don't know, translators that hear your voice and put the text in the language that you're speaking, and recognizes automatically. So it's not impossible that there is a future where we play games with that implemented. It would be great, amazing. Like, you wouldn't have to be thinking onto translating onto every single language, just helping with the AI to do that for you. But I don't know how ready are the gamers to know
I
that.
mean, the question is, would I want translation? I mean, I prefer to use a direct language without translator. I mean, I know what I want to say and how I want to express it. If I have a translator and I'm watching translated videos or whatever, I'm always thinking in my head, like, I would have said that differently, you know?
Yeah,
So I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want an AI that would translate the English game into German for me. I mean, personally, when I play a game or when I use an application, the first thing that I do is I switch it to English, because I don't like German translation at all. And very often the translation has a lesser quality and doesn't transport the humor and the same message as the English original. That's always
yeah.
what I thought when
It
I
happens in
consume
Spanish as
media.
well. It
Yeah.
happens in Spanish as well. I hate to see games. I know there's game that comes in Spanish. I hate playing games in Spanish. I want to play the original language. Happens when I see anime, happens when I see movies, happens when I see games, when I play games as well. If the game was made in German, let me play it in German. I'll find a
Okay.
way.
I wouldn't want that if I didn't know German, of course. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
exception. But
Well, yeah, I'm a try hard, but yeah, I know what you mean. I guess it's, as I said, different for every person, because every gender has its community, its players. So depending on what you like, for from the MDA framework, simply just referring to that, you can see that there's difference into what you and I expect from a game. So if you're thinking on that, when you pick the gender of your game, when you pick the theme of your game, your
mm,
story, your game design, your art and everything, you also have to think, what does that objective group want from the game itself? Do you want text? Do you want audio? Do you want to put the audio for people who have accessibility problems? You do not, because you're going to find another way to let them know what to do. But that's the thing from the gender in the game and the whole investigation that you should be doing. I guess that's the problem itself, from my point of view at least, that they don't do enough investigation as to why are they doing what they're doing. Yeah, I tend to do that a lot with everything, so it just wears me out, but I guess it's a problem. I don't know how other person develops their game. I mean, I know the general rules, but on my part, I think that every time that you do something, you're doing it for a reason, and that should be that the whole flag of what you're putting out in the world is the flag that is going to bring your community, is the flag that is going to help you let them know why your game is different and why they should play it. But
Well,
as you're saying, not many people care, I guess.
there is a 120 pages long thread on the Cyberpunk 2077 forum about the game not working with any accessibility tools for the disabled gamers, and CDR Project Red, well, CDR, yeah.
Yeah.
They never even once replied to that thread, though they are not fixing it or making it accessible to disabled gamers at all. And I find that super sad, especially since they released Phantom Liberty this year, and they are still not fixing the game to make it more accessible to handicapped people. And I mean simple things like allowing alternative input devices or allow different keys that are normally not allowed. That would be, from my point of view as a gamer, obviously be easy to implement. But CDR, no, sorry, it's not CDR, it's CD Projekt Red. Now I got it. CD Projekt Red. Yeah, I said it wrongly before. CD Projekt Red concentrates so much on their reputation they destroyed when they first released the game that they seem to not care about anything else anymore. I mean, it caused a little shitstorm that when they released Phantom Liberty, they also raised the system requirements for the base game. So when you bought the game 3 years ago, you cannot play it anymore on the same computer because on the PC version, the system requirements raised. So you need to upgrade your PC or stop playing the game in the future because future updates will not be tested on older hardware anymore. And it's like, ooh, you know, and it's kind of sometimes some companies and some game development companies seem that they want to trigger shitstorms by doing the exact opposite of what a logical mind would say is the best way to go. I don't know. It's totally shocked me when I saw that. Perhaps when they were so successful with the Witcher series, they got a bit over their head. The Polish people, I don't know, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a very sad thing that I see in many games. I used to like playing Back for Blood. I really enjoyed the game. It was fun. But I was very sad and very upset, to be honest, that Turtle Rock actually decided not to give support anymore to the game after less than 10 months of being
Wow.
released.
Okay.
And you can still see in Steam and in Xbox that they were, I'm sorry, I saw it in Steam. I don't know if it was in Xbox, but you can still get the whole year pack where you would play the game with all its expansions for a year. Me and my friends bought every single expansion because we wanted to play the game, but all of a sudden the game was finished, the story closed in the most fast way possible, and the whole thing that you could find about it was that they were working on a new project and they were not going to give any support to the community even less than a year that the game was developed, and you can still get the whole year pass without support. Like, what? No thread, no opportunity to talk about with the community. So I stopped playing the game. Like, I finished the game, I uninstalled it, and I
Wow.
told to my friends, like, listen, if I, as a dev, don't care about my community, that they're the ones feeding me, that I'm doing things wrong. So I'm not gonna play this game on stream. I'm not going to talk about this game anymore because this is not the way to do things. Sorry. At least let people talk, or give them the chance to play the game freely. Okay, you're not going to support anymore, then at least release all of your DLC so everyone can play it, and at least take with them the best experience possible so they can play your new game and they're going to want to. But right now, I don't. And I'm just one person. I don't know what happens with the whole rest of them. So I see this is a way where some bigger companies are working because, well, I guess the recession, but anyway, they think that making, or at least from my side of things, making deals with technology, with hardware parts, companies and everything, they're encouraging their growth. But at the end of the day, these companies, their technology is going to find some sort of top, because you can only make your computer gamer until some point. You cannot go into graphics forever. There's going to be one perfect spot and you cannot go beyond that. You're going to have to go into another type of um, computer or console or everything. And, well, I guess they're entitled to be short-lived. I guess. Sad. So that's why I also try to support the indie companies, because I truly believe that when you're working with less, you try to be the best possible. If you're smart enough, like, you're going to try to make, even if your
Thank you.
game is tiny, you're going to be trying to make it different, working on that, working on building a community and taking care of it because it's closer to you, you know. But
Hmm.
some companies, when they get too big, yeah, I see that they don't care as much. I guess it's just how it works for some
I mean,
people. It also depends.
if I'm not mistaken, CD Projekt Red used to be an indie studio. It
At
used to
some
be
point.
small, you know, and then somehow it went out of control, you know.
Yeah, but again, that's someone's decision, you know. Like, I mean, we can say, oh yeah, they're a bigger company and they made that mistake, and yeah, you're right. But someone decided that that wasn't important enough, as to other matters. I don't know why or how, but it happened. So what can we do beyond, like, trying as a community? I'm a dev and I'm also part of their community, trying to talk to them, be like, hey, you should fix it. At least try to say something. Because also, if, as many other gamers, because it happens with gamers, not necessarily content creators, happens to content creators as well, but they try to attack the company. And also, when you're being attacked, you're not going to want to talk and find a middle ground. You're just going to react to it, and that's also not a good way to get things done. I guess you can, well, on my part, you can mostly do things better with honey than with vinegar. So if you try to talk to the company and be like, hey, this happened, and at least you tried, then it's likely for them to answer. If they don't, well, they made their choice, but you're not the one pointing fingers and attacking them, because that's just gonna feed the toxicity that we already have of several places, and that's not good for anyone either.
Well, I hope
At
the
least from my part.
toxicity. I hope it will become less toxic in the future. I mean,
Hopefully.
with change in the society, I don't know, but it would be good, you know.
We can
If
all dream.
Yeah, I mean, we could call this podcast everything that goes wrong in the video game industry because it sounds like it. Yeah, but
Oh, there's so much more I know. I mean, I know there's so much more things going wrong. I just don't know why.
I mean, on the other hand, we also have to embrace the differences. Otherwise, if we make every game society friendly and fair, I mean, imagine a GTA game, where you can't shoot people or something. Like, would that be still a GTA title? I mean, now that GTA 6 is around the corner, and I guess it will be as violent as the other parts. I don't
But I'm
think.
trying to tell you that I'm sorry to interrupt you. The
Sure.
people that like the violent games, they're not violent at all. Most of my friends like enjoy very gore games and violence and everything, and they're not violent at all. I also enjoy very violent games, but since I put all my energy into that, I don't get violent the rest of the time. It's like, why? I could just be playing the game.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't come from those places. I think it comes from the other places where people still don't find their calling. Because, I don't think there's many people out there telling you or asking you, what would you like to play? And I think that's also a problem about responsibility for gamers, because it would be great if someone told you, like, okay, what do you like to do? For example, you like playing D&D? Then let's find a game that brings the best of D&D for you. And that's a whole new ordeal. But many people play what they have in front because that's all they know. And that also feeds that, I guess, lingering frustration that it's not really fun, it's just entertaining, and maybe that's why we just go with it and not try very hard to improve ourselves as a person doing whatever we're doing. But I guess it just depends on the gamer as well, because after all, if you're an adult and you're doing that, you're behaving that way, and you're not asking yourself why, then you have a bigger problem there. On kids, I kind of understand it, but on adults, it's.
I totally get it. So have a good rest of your day, right? Talk to yourself,
Yeah.
right? Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.